Starcitizen is a highly polarizing game, especially when a prominent streamer plays it for a few hours and then declares that anyone who doesn't hate it must be out of their mind. The game has its fair share of valid criticisms, but it also faces a lot of unwarranted backlash. So why does Starcitizen provoke such strong negative reactions? Starcitizen has been in development for over a decade, originally announced in 2012 with an expected release date of 2014. Fast forward to today and the game is still in development, with no definitive end in sight. For many, this extended timeline is a major source of frustration. After all, waiting 10 years for anything, let alone a video game, can test anyone's patience. This has led to widespread skepticism about whether Starcitizen will ever reach full completion, or if it will remain in perpetual development limbo. Now, if you're one of those really early initial backers and you're annoyed about this, then fair enough, I don't blame you at all. However, if you're like me and you only purchased your starter pack a few years ago, then you kinda knew what you were signing up for. I bought the game after playing a free fly, knowing that the game was still in dev and it would be a rocky journey for a while. But it was a journey I was excited to join in on. One of my friends only plays with me during free fly because he doesn't like to pay for anything early access, which is also fair enough. But neither of us have any right to complain or moan about this. I invested money into a game I knew wasn't finished or released, so I should expect to essentially be used as a game tester. My friend, on the other hand, hasn't invested any money, so he doesn't see a reason to complain. He knows there's plenty of other games to enjoy while he waits for Starcitizen to be completed, and if it never is, well, he hasn't lost anything in the process. This brings me on to the next point of contention, the funding of the game. I think the biggest thing that people have an issue with is the amount of money Starcitizen has generated via crowdfunding. The game has made hundreds of millions of dollars via the initial Kickstarter, and then through purchases and pre-orders made on their store. I believe it's actually the highest funded game of all time, but still an alpha after 12 years, which obviously raises some questions. A critic would argue that it raises questions about where the money is even going if the game isn't being made. Now, there have been a few hurdles that the development path has had to cross, like the Crytek lawsuit and advances in game tech that have led to an increase in ambition and as a result require an increase in work and development time. On top of that, Cloud Imperium continues to sell in-game items and ships for real money, some of which cost thousands of dollars. This has led some to feel like the ongoing fundraiser is exploitative, and especially considering the game isn't even finished yet. This is probably the most grey area of Starcitizen for me. They do have things available that cost far too much money, and this could lead to impulsive, addictive people spending far too much money on the game. However, I feel like if they didn't spend it here, those types of people probably are just spending it elsewhere anyway. Like, it's not like you'll find somebody who was perfectly healthy until Starcitizen, and then if Starcitizen was banned, they would be perfectly fine. These people have mental health problems that need addressing outside of just game practice. You can also achieve everything in-game, so it's not really pay to win. It's relatively easy to make money in Starcitizen at the moment, and honestly probably takes less time to earn them in-game than to earn them from a minimum wage job paying cash to buy them on the store. I know there are huge purchases in the thousands that you can make, those aren't even available to me. I haven't spent much money, so there's a ceiling to what it will let me spend. I think this is to limit overspending. You can only spend a certain amount at a time. I may be wrong, I'm not entirely sure why this is. But essentially, with the way the game works, if you buy a ship, then that money is on your account. If you don't like the ship, you can just trade it in for another one of the same or less value. And if you own multiple ships, you can trade all of those in and get a bigger ship, or you can trade a bigger ship in and get multiple smaller ships. So I assume those huge purchases are only available to people who've spent close to that much anyway. I also like that the transactions are actually in a real currency, not some weird Starcitizen currency that you can only buy in blocks of 1,000, even though everything costs 1,005 coins. From the very start, Starcitizen has made some incredibly ambitious promises, and these have only increased in ambition as the years have gone on. The game is supposed to be a massive living universe where players can do just about anything they want, from space combat to exploration, base building, trading, and much more has been promised. Some of these features haven't arrived yet, and some are still in development, leaving some backers feeling that the game isn't delivering on its promises. The gap between what was promised and what has been delivered so far is a major reason why some fans have been disillusioned with the game. Now, I may be a bit biased here because I've only purchased a starter pack and it was only a few years ago, so I already knew what was to expect from the development, but I don't really see this as a huge problem. If anything, I'm just more excited and want these features now, rather than being angry that they aren't here yet. I feel like this could be the double-edged sword for Cloud Imperium, with them offering such large investment choices in the game's development. Like, yeah, they get a lot of money, then you have a lot of people who have invested a lot of money and want what they seemingly paid for as soon as possible. I have zero issues with the amount of hours of fun and the amount of features available to me for my £45 I think it was I spent on the game. If I had spent thousands, then yeah, I could see myself feeling pretty underwhelmed and frustrated about it all. I really enjoy purchasing early access games and getting to experience the development path too, and I appreciate this isn't for everyone. But honestly, I don't understand why people buy early access when this is the kind of thing that annoys them so much. It's just strange to me. I'd understand if the game was unplayable and empty, but outside of a rough patch every now and then, and especially this last year, let's be honest, the game's super fun. I've had so many great evenings where my jaw and my abs hurt from laughing so much with my friends, just messing about in the verse doing silly little things. Another sore point is the perceived lack of transparency we see from the devs. Whilst Cloud Imperium does provide regular updates, they can at times feel a bit marketing heavy and lack proper, concrete, hittable timelines. They also often seem to gloss over the issues that they must be facing to have missed so many deadlines. I can fully understand why people feel a lack of trust in these updates, and I feel like the devs aren't being fully upfront with the community about the state of the game's development. Speaking of the state of the game, it's very common for people to complain about the technical issues with the game. The game does have many bugs, crashes, and it runs poorly on lower end systems. And when you think about how long the game has been in development, it is super frustrating that these issues are still so common. However, with the game being very publicly in an alpha state, I don't mind this. If the game was labelled as complete or something like that, I'd be super annoyed. But I feel like buying a game in alpha and not expecting bugs and things like that, it's just a bit silly. These problems are amplified massively during free fly events, because the servers are just swamped with new players. Free fly events are essentially a week-long time periods where the game becomes free to play so everyone can try it out. However, I feel like the servers just aren't ready for these events, so the game ends up running horrifically for everyone, which in turn leads to many people using this as their first impression of what the game must be like all of the time. This isn't the player's fault. It makes no sense to me that Cloud Imperium allows this to be a constant thing that happens. Yeah, I assume they make enough money for it to be worthwhile. I mean, I myself purchased during the free fly, but I feel like they're just burning their reputation more and more by exposing more new players to this horrific state of play. I do hope server meshing fixes this, but in my opinion, a better option would just be to have a trial period. Why not let people refund starter packs within 1 week of purchase? Then you would spread out the influx of new players instead of condensing them over 1 week. I am happy though to see improvements in the game's performance, especially after this last year. As a community, we will definitely have PTSD from the 30Ks for a long time yet, but fingers crossed the 4.0 update is a solid one. The Starcitizen community is incredibly passionate, but also deeply divided. On one hand, you have players who are optimistic and supportive like myself, believing in the game's vision. On the other, there are those who are disillusioned with the game and very vocal about their disappointment. This division often leads to heated debates and even toxicity in a lot of the online discussions, further fueling the controversy. Negative opinions are so much louder than positive ones, and I feel like this is largely what feeds the outside opinion on the game. And this is probably why people refer to those that enjoy the game as brainwashed, or even sometimes as a cult. One of the biggest criticisms levelled at Starcitizen is scope creep. The game's scope has expanded significantly since its initial announcement, with new features and content being added continuously. While this can be exciting, it also makes it seem like the project is out of control with no clear end in sight. This has led many to wonder if Starcitizen will ever be finished, or if it's doomed to remain as an ever-evolving work in progress. I also don't understand the criticism of things being over-ambitious. Like, what would they prefer? That we just have the same games but reskinned every single year? I would prefer that gaming actually has much more ambition from more developers. I want to see new games that are revolutionary and change the ecosystem instead of just making repetitive, safe, cookie-cutter type games. I do understand that this adds the risk of games failing every now and again, but it also creates opportunities for many more games to win. However, I do appreciate the frustration with them adding new features to the dev plan before finishing others. I would also prefer that they finish existing features before starting new ones. Some believe that the roots of these issues lies in poor project management. With the constant addition of new features and delays, critics argue that developers might be more focused on creating a perfect game rather than actually delivering a finished product. This perception of mismanagement contributes to the overall skepticism surrounding the project. But again, I'm kind of fine with this. I'm very patient and I'm happy to wait for a perfect game. I don't really believe that a perfect game will ever exist, but I'm excited to see how close they can get to making one, even if it takes another 10 years. Starcitizen has set incredibly high expectations for itself. With its ambitious goals and the amount of money raised, any shortcomings or delays are magnified. This has created a situation where it's almost impossible for the game to meet the sky-high expectations that it may have been set, leading to disappointment for many people. In the end, the negativity surrounding Starcitizen is a mix of prolonged development, unfulfilled promises, technical issues, and the perception of mismanagement. The game's ambitious scope and the high expectations set by its developers have created a complex and often divisive situation. Whilst I do understand people's criticisms of the game, I don't reciprocate them. Not only are they developing a wildly ambitious game with incredible potential, but they're also developing a game engine. I think this is where the biggest impact of Starcitizen will be. I don't think Starcitizen will ever be that perfect game, but I think they are creating a game engine that other developers will be able to take and use to make something amazing. I'm also happy to wait. I'm patient and have plenty of other games to play, and I've enjoyed hopping onto Starcitizen every now and again to see what's new and play with the new ships or features. I'm looking forward to the future of the game, and I'm so excited for Squadron 42. I'm actually debating getting a flight stick set up rather than the mouse and keyboard I use right now, so if anyone has any recommendations for a two-stick setup, then please do let me know in the comments. People like to say that Starcitizen is a scam or that it's not even a game, but I feel like they're pretty transparent with what you get for what you pay, and it's something I've downloaded and played online and had lots of fun with, so what is it if not a game? What do you think? Is Starcitizen a visionary project worth the wait? Or is it a cautionary tale of what happens when ambitions go unchecked? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon and all those other things that YouTubers say. And I'll see you again next week.